We are live back. The Spotlight with Shaun O'Rourke, and I have today Ashley Bratcher, and I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I love the opportunity to talk to you.
Well, this is good. I think we're going to have a good time and good chat. But first, I'm going to talk about your bio for a second. We're just going to give people highlights who are not familiar with you, which I think is crazy. But you got to do that for the layman's that are out there. So now you're the CEO of Simple Jane Films. When did you start that company?
In 2020, it was January of 2020 that I started my own production company because I wanted to be more intentional with my career. I felt like there were certain stories that I wanted to be able to tell. And by producing, you have the opportunity to kind of pick and choose where you want your career to go. And that was the main reason I started my own production company.
And I swear that's why I started mine and started producing my own projects. You just get tired of the rat race. I think for me, and when you want to tell stories and you can tell stories, you just kind of have to put your feet right in it. So you are award-winning actress, producer, and you're the star. You were the star of the box office hit Unplanned, which I've seen. And that was a box office hit.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember if it was number 3 or number 4 the weekend that we premiered, but it kind of just blew our minds with the expectations that we had, because we felt like we were doing something really special and quality content, and we were kind of shifting the way that faith-based film was being produced. And it was an R-rated movie, which was kind of crazy for a faith-based film, but the audience really showed up and it gained more mass appeal. And I think that beyond the faith-based audience, it kind of grew. And to this day, I still get messages from all over the world, people who are still watching it, which is crazy to me. So that's really cool. But yeah, it did really well in the box office. I remember my face being right beside Captain Marvel. So that was crazy.
Nice.
But yeah, a really cool experience.
Yeah, that movie it was a $6 million budget, and it did 21 million at the box office worldwide. And that is really amazing for a $6 million movie, because, the rule of thumb in Hollywood's like, you got to double your budget to break even. But that's because they built in all this marketing costs. But because yours was a faith-based film and it kind of went through the church circuit where everybody talked about it, word of mouth, that kind of thing, the spending wasn't in the marketing like a normal traditional Hollywood film. So you want to talk about making bank. Yeah, that movie did really well.
You kind of have a grassroots movement to support you. And when you're nurturing your audience, it's really built in, and it's wise for producers to nurture and serve their audience. And they did. And they had the backing of them to make it so successful.
And you, like me, I've been in the business like 20 years, working like crew in multiple departments. You've been in over a decade now. So, as a producer, you understand the map. When you get on set, you understand everybody's jobs. It's not like somebody that just comes on set and, I always feel bad for a lot of novice actors that'll come on set and they don't know what's going on. They know to hit their mark and to deliver their lines, sometimes. But sometimes, but as a producer, you really have to get down and dirty and understand all of it. And
yeah, I started as an extra in Wilmington. I think one of the first projects I worked on was a Nicholas Sparks movie as an extra in Safe Haven.
Oh, Safe Haven. Oh, this is the one that was shot in Southport. Yeah.
So I started as an extra, and then I worked as a stand-in for Sherry O'Terry on A Christmas in Conway, I think is what it was called.
Oh, so
extra, stand-in. Everything that I could do, indie films, short films, student films, just so that I could learn the ropes, because I'm somebody who likes to continue to learn and I want to be the best in my craft. So if I don't know the answer, I'm going to ask somebody who's better at it than me. And I really just want to absorb everything that I can on set. And that was what I think helped me to move forward to get to where I am in my career now.
That's great. It's so funny. I cut my teeth on a Nicholas Sparks film. So mine was so that is so crazy. Your first one, mine was Nights in Rodanthe with Diane Lane and Richard Gere. We shot that in 2005. I think it came out in 2006. And that's when I met Daryl Lefevre.
Yeah. I was just going to say that Daryl worked on that project. He's amazing. And he was one of the producers on Unplanned.
Yeah, he was the first accountant on that, and
Mm.
one of the nicest, and still to this day, one of the nicest people I've ever met in the film industry.
Oh, yeah, and he's so humble, and it's
Oh,
really kind of rare to meet somebody, I hate to say that, but it is rare to meet somebody who has humility and is so successful because he's willing to just pick up the phone and talk to you when you have a question, and he doesn't act like he's had major box office hits, but he has, and
he
he
has. He absolutely has.
yeah,
Yeah, but he's super great. Cindy's great too. I
yeah.
saw that. I don't know if it was a current picture, but on Facebook, I think they went to Ireland, or is that like or were they in Oregon? I couldn't tell. They were like on cliffs, and I'm going. They didn't put where they were at, and I want to go to Ireland. And when I looked at it, I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, is he in Ireland?"
You haven't been before?
Now, have you been to Ireland?
I went for a big event for Unplanned, actually.
Oh, see,
I
so
know.
somebody paid for your ticket. That's great.
It was pretty amazing. We were there for almost a week, and I just went from coast to coast. It has become one of my favorite places in the world, and if I can find any reason to go back, if I can make 5 movies there, I'm going to.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to go.
Oh, yeah.
Me and the wife, we're gonna have to take my daughter and get over to Ireland.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so all right, and so you're using your platform now to tell more encouraging stories, and we're gonna talk about the one that you've got. We're gonna tee this one up. We're gonna show the trailer, kind of like the pitch video for it, and you can give us a little bit of the background about how you even stumbled onto this. I mean, um, you, because I'd never heard of it before.
Great.
They don't teach you a lot. I mean, they don't teach you a lot in the history books. Let's
There's
just
a
be
lot
honest when you're in
left out,
school.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it takes filmmakers to bring these stories to life. And I remember when I saw the one movie, uh, it was the one where the African American women were doing the calculations for
Hidden Figures.
NASA, Hidden
Mhm.
Figures,
Yeah,
and I was like, I never heard of that before. Like
I know.
they never taught us anything like that.
Yeah.
And then when you see, just to cite another African American movie, but the Green Book, I didn't know there
Mhm.
was a handbook to keep people only in as you're traveling, so you don't get lynched and stuff. You can only go to safe
Mhm.
hotels and stuff where people. Why didn't they teach that in the so you're touching on a subject that I'd never heard of before. And when I remember when I came across, I saw the website, I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. And I remember you were already talking to Bill Pettit, and I
Mhm.
had seen that and went, I need to call Bill. And I get him on the phone and say, oh, yo, you got to hear about this project. He's like, oh, I'm all over that. I've already talked to the guy. I was like, oh, see? So
Yeah,
it's like good stuff like that
yeah,
happen.
and good people.
Yeah. So I want you to tee this up. We're gonna watch the trailer for Pharma. And but I want you to kind of set it up a little bit before it, although it sets itself up pretty good. I want you to kind of tell the audience what this thing's about.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, I didn't know about the story when I found the script. And it's the true story of Dr. Frances Kelsey, who was not only one of the first women to work at the FDA, but also someone who stood up to the FDA and Big Pharma to expose corruption and injustice that was happening in the 1960s. She was assigned a drug called thalidomide as one of her first applications to approve. And this drug was being handed out all over the world for morning sickness. She didn't think there was enough clinical evidence to support that it was safe, and she kept pushing back and asking for more evidence. And the FDA basically told her to rubber stamp it. Her job was threatened, she was trailed. She just faced so many challenges, and especially being a woman in the workplace at that time.
In the
It was,
60s. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really interesting battle and so many complexities in the challenges that she faced. But she ended up being successful in blocking the drug in the US. She found out that it was causing birth defects. Babies were being born without arms and legs. There were miscarriages, babies being born
Mm,
and dying hours within their birth. And she went to the Washington Post. She blew the whistle. The Washington Post ran the article.
wow.
JFK caught wind of it, and he awarded her one of the highest civilian honors. So she's amazing. She's someone who should be honored, and we should know about her legacy.
Wow. And so this project's in active development. I'm going to tee up the trailer here, and we're going to check this out. And make sure I get that volume correct. Here we go.
I had a job at the FDA. They didn't like the questions I was asking.
You heard that I fired Barbara Moulton. Don't make me do the same to you.
The FDA is corrupt.
Trying to change the drug laws is a political landmine.
Bribery, off-the-books consulting fees, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Merrill Pharmaceuticals is working with convicted Nazis. They're approving unsafe drugs. This has to stop.
I need proof.
I want to start a new war.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many elements of the story that are shocking, I would say, and very relevant to today. I think there's a lot of parallels. It's a very relevant story. But at this time, the drug had originated in Germany. The company Grunenthal had employed more Nazi war criminals than anyone at the time. The reason I think this is important to note is because there was an atmosphere there where life didn't really matter. I mean, the Nazis.
Yeah, they were experimenting with gas and all sorts of stuff on people.
Yeah,
They,
and it was
back then.
theorized that this drug was actually tested in Nazi camps. So, I mean, there's not actual valid evidence that supports that, but there's a lot of theories that this was tested in concentration camps. So this company had started to license the drug to other companies around the world. It was sold only second to aspirin. They were dubbing it a miracle drug. It was helping with morning sickness, but they also knew that in their company, they had passed it out to employees, and some of their employees, their wives happened to start having babies with missing limbs. And the company kept denying it, even when they were faced with clear evidence and proof to show that this drug was causing issues. They denied it. And for 50 years after this happened, they never issued a public apology. I'm talking 50 years since the late 50s, 60s. They did not issue a public apology to those who were affected by the drug. It's insane.
That's insane. And I just yesterday, you had a live stream with some of the people that were affected, survivors of this.
Yeah,
and I'll put that link to that live stream in the comment section and pin it to the top. And then also to anyone that comes, watches this stream, all the links are in the description below to get more information on this, to go to the official website and check it all out. It's mind blowing. But again, the parallels, like you say, where it's like big pharma profits over people. They just want to get something to market. I remember once hearing the story about aspartame, the stuff they put in, drinks, sugar-free stuff. That was another situation where it had been denied several times by the Food and Drug Administration to even get it approved in the 70s. But back then they had a 3-person panel. And so, of course, these companies lobbied to get more people on the panel that approved it so that they could have a split. So,
so why is Big Pharma lobbying? That's my problem too. Like, why does Big Pharma need lobbyists?
It's because there's no profit in a cure. You just want to give things, and you want to put Band-Aids on people and make money off those Band-Aids,
Yeah.
It's the same.
Dope Sick. I mean, Dope Sick was a really well done series about the opioid epidemic. And they denied it. And so that's another series I point to where I'm like, this is not crazy and far-fetched, and it's happening as of recently.
No, and when you look at just in history alone, where like the Tuskegee Airmen were experimented on, or given syphilis and stuff, and to see how it spread through communities and things like that. There's just been a lot of really crappy things and this is where I always circle back to like the term mankind. Man's not really kind. There's kind people, but as a whole, it's a little, there's just so much where I think people just want to live in the moment, make as much money as they can, and self-preservation, and they don't care about anybody else. And that's just such a sad state that we can't seem to get out of. It just seems like human nature. It's weird.
We deal a lot with that theme throughout the script as well, because we're not painting this image that Big Pharma is full of these bad guys, because we know that not everyone who works for the pharmaceutical industry is a bad person. And the same for the FDA. So there's characters in the movie, in the script, that some of them just think they're doing something that's good. They think that they're helping. They don't realize that they're putting out a drug that's not safe until later on. And there's people who think they're just doing their job because they need to
Yeah.
survive.
And I think, when you first look at a drug like that, and can you pronounce it one more time for me? Because
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are like, what is this drug? Thalidomide.
thalidomide. Wow, that's a tongue twister. So thalidomide, it's used for morning sickness, or that was they thought. And of course it had the side effects. So when you talk to survivors, like when you did your stream, and these are people that, their limbs didn't grow when they were born and things like that, is how do people even cope with that? And if they haven't taken responsibility in 50 years, then there's no way that they can't settle with people. Right. So that's the thing. They don't want to say it was this way, because then they would have to make reparations to all the people that it affected. Now, I think wasn't it like 10,000 people or something?
So that was across the world.
And that was across the world.
Don't realize that there are actually survivors in the US because of what Frances Kelsey did, because she got it blocked. But during that time in the 60s, there were very loose drug regulations where there was a loophole that pharmaceutical companies could hand out drugs as samples. So it was technically an unmonitored drug trial. So these women were being handed these samples while they were waiting FDA approval. And so people were affected in the US. So everyone that I interviewed on my live stream last night was a US survivor. Now, there's also a statute of limitations. This is something we're talking about later this week and sending an email out about. There's a statute of limitations regarding when someone can sue or seek out reparations from those who caused harm, like in the pharmaceutical industry. Sure. And we had one woman share that when she actually filed suit, it was like 1 month and 6 days past the statute of limitations, and that the pharmaceutical company admitted guilt, but they were like, well, sorry.
Oh, you lost. Yeah. You didn't get it in time. Oh.
Exactly. And so that's happening right here in the US, which is so incredibly frustrating, because all over the world, most countries have recognized their survivors and created some sort of assistance program that is helping these survivors. I mean, they've dealt with it their entire lives. They're starting to pass away. They're older, and they never got any help. And that really motivates me to make sure that we're giving those people a platform and we're using the movie for good. That's always been my intention. And I'm just like, here, any thalidomide survivor that I can help, who wants to talk about it, who wants to get on this platform and talk about it. If I can meet with legislators, which I've already been doing, I've been reaching out to legislators. You don't usually do that as a producer, but I'm a crazy person. And so I've been reaching out to legislators, news outlets, and we started to get some headway. I just had a governor reach back out to me yesterday who's willing to connect us to people in DC to kind of help figure out a way to help these people.
Well, and again, that goes back to just, what you're trying to do is not only create art with a film, but you're doing it with a motivation to help people.
Yeah.
And that's great, and I don't think people come at it that way. A lot of people just want to, for me, for example, like I like all the stuff that I like to create or action or, comic book, just goofy stuff. 'Cause I'm a guy and I watch mindless stuff, but, you're like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm, and when you take on like with Unplanned, you're taking on Planned Parenthood, for God's sakes, which is like such a huge organization. And then now you're taking on the pharmaceutical industry. It's like, where there's no fear. You have absolutely no fear.
Well, I think that's because my motivation and intention is so clear to me. I know my path and what I'm seeking out of my career, and that is to have a fulfilling sense of helping people, like to know that my movies are doing good, or that they're starting conversations and they're getting people thinking. So it's never been, oh, I want to make a lot of money, or, I want to, be famous. Like, that's why I don't have this fear, because you can't necessarily cancel somebody who doesn't care.
Right. So,
it's like, I'm not scared of that, but also back to what you were saying about making action films and all kinds of stuff. Every single person in this industry has their niche. They have their market. They have their own platform and path. And all of those paths are intended for different audiences. And that's okay. Like, there can and should be content created so that when somebody gets off work at the end of the day, they can turn on something and just relax and laugh. that's great too. Like every piece
Yeah.
of media serves its purpose. So I appreciate what you're doing just as much as you're saying about my work.
Yeah, and again, like I would love to tackle a topic like that, but I mean, it's so out of my wheelhouse that and you know the thing is you have such a passion, and you know it's based in your belief system. So you like the way you spearhead it is differently than I'll because I'm like watching a goofy action film, so it's like it's totally different. Um, but it also, you started this other organization and you worked with Heartbeat International,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just the Unplanned Movie Scholarship. Tell me about the Unplanned Movie Scholarship.
Yeah, I just have a hard time saying no and just doing movies. Like I want to be able to give back. And when I was younger, I had my own unplanned pregnancy. I struggled. I was on WIC and Medicaid, and I always felt like when I was in a position to turn around and help somebody else that I wanted to. And so when the opportunity presented itself through my network after doing Unplanned, Heartbeat International was one of the first organizations that I wanted to partner with, because they have centers all over the country that provide resources to young women in crisis situations. I mean, from tangible resources like, diapers and whatnot, to educational resources, to mentorship. I mean, is so beyond the scope of just saying, here's some diapers, go live your life. That's not how
Yeah.
it works. They're
Yeah.
working with these women who have 3-year-olds still. And I wanted to be able to help girls understand that you can have a baby and go to school and have a really wonderful career. And I took this idea to Heartbeat and I said, if this is one little problem that we can solve, then can we do this together? And to date, we've given over $50,000 to help cover tuition costs for young moms who are going to school. And
Wow.
this week, we might have a surprise coming for someone else.
Very nice. That's good. That's exciting. That's exciting. My mom was a single mom with 3 of us. And so I know about the food stamps. I know about the WIC. I think I had free lunch till I was a senior in high school,
Yeah,
because we
me
just
too.
never had the, those kind of means. And so I think that takes a certain kind of person to overcome that, and the
Mhm.
education thing. I mean, God, so many
Yeah,
of just unplanned pregnancies are just education. I mean, it's just so
it
basic.
is.
It's so
It
basic.
really is. And I think that sometimes all people need is somebody to hold out their hand and say, you're not in this alone.
Yep.
And that's huge. People don't understand how impactful it is to just say to somebody, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah, because I mean, it just again, like I watched Unplanned, and it's funny because it's based on Abby Johnson. You play the character Abby Johnson as a real life character, a real life person, and my daughter's name is Abby. So
Aw.
it's funny. So I'm watching the movie, and I just keep hearing Abby, 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 and I'm like,
Aw.
because if she's asleep.
Aw.
She's not, but I keep hearing the name all the whole time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so funny. Not funny, but there's that one scene in the movie, and I'm sorry we've deviated off to this, but there's that one scene in the movie where the character comes in and you kind of piece things together. And my wife with Abby had a C-section, and so like that scene kind of hit home a little bit, only because she later had to go because my wife almost died, because they
Wow.
left a piece of placenta still attached. So after they took Abby out and put her back together, and about a week later she hemorrhaged, and
Wow.
then had to have I think it's called a DNC, where they scrape everything together.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to what that would be to get out, things that were
Yeah.
left behind.
It is. It's almost the exact same procedure, but the intention is different. So
The
we try to
intent,
explain that to people. The
yeah.
intention is very different.
Yeah, and so, but the blood and the like, that whole thing, just because that's what I experienced,
Wow.
except it was, obviously, it wasn't that, but
Yeah.
like it all hit home while I'm watching that. I'm going, oh my
Yeah.
God, oh my God, oh my God.
Well, I
And
think
that's the thing, like people don't understand. So if you don't understand, you gotta figure it out, go
Well, I think that
do your
one of the
research.
things that Unplanned did a great job of is showing the fragility of life. Like it can so easily, um, I'm not sure how to articulate it properly, honestly, but it just shows how precious life is. And I feel like sometimes it's not quite valued or understood that this is an incredible thing. I mean, the process of getting pregnant to having a baby is mind blowing, just the development that happens. And I think it was really cool to be able to see people understand and grasp that concept from what we did.
Yeah. It was definitely an eye opener for me because I didn't know some of the stuff that was presented in the movie.
Oh yeah, me either. Before I did it.
And I'm just like, whoa, what's that? Whoa.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now you take on that, now you're taking on big pharma. But when it comes to the industry as a whole, I know you were warned you might be blackballed or blacklisted or whatever. Did you ever feel that? Did that ever really happen, or was it just something they warned you about? Like, are they may get crazy about the subject matter and then never hire you. Did you actually like never get auditions again after that, or?
That's interesting because going into it, I never had that fear, and I still kind of don't lean into that fear. I mean, obviously, as an actor, we all have our own insecurities. And sometimes when we're not auditioning, we're like, am I not good enough? If we're not booking, we're like, am I not good enough? Like, what's going on? But after I did the movie, there was a lot of debate about abortion in general across America. But one thing that I've always tried to do in accepting this role and going beyond that was to enter into conversation with people with compassion, and to say, no matter where you stand and how you feel and what you believe, I am open to a conversation, and I can respect the way you feel so that we can have a meaningful conversation. And that has really aided me in my relationships in the industry. I mean, I had studio executives call me out of the blue. I mean, major studio heads were calling me and saying, hey, I appreciate what you did. And then some people who didn't even agree with me, who were very, very, very pro-choice and really believed in abortion as a right, were calling me and saying, hey, I don't agree with you, but you're a lovely person. So it's kind of like, it's hit or miss. I will say, I've continued to audition for really wonderful things. I have a wonderful agent that I've been with for a decade now, and I get great auditions because I have great relationships with the casting in the Southeast in particular. But I do feel like there has been an aspect of maybe getting up to the producer level where some people just aren't open to having me be a part of their project because they don't know me. And it's hard when someone doesn't know you and they just see things on a piece of paper to show them who you are, which is part of, like, we audition on tape now. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, dude, it sucks.
A video, right? Like, we get an audition and we send in a video. Whereas opposed to back, like 5-6 years ago, we were going in person. So you could talk to somebody and they get a sense of your personality. And now you don't really get that opportunity. So it is about building those relationships outside of the audition tape where people understand who you are. I try to do that through social media and being at events with people just to say, hey, here's who I am as a person. Let's just talk and get to know me for who I am.
Yeah, it's like that one kid that did Game of Thrones and he played that really bad kid. Like now he got out of the business because he was getting people, they think you're the characters that you play.
Yeah.
I've never understood that people can't disconnect and go, oh, wait a minute, you're the, I love playing bad guys only because it's fun, because it's so opposite what I am as a person. I'm always like, and to play a bad guy, it's like, oh, that's cool. Because that's something I don't get to do.
Well, sometimes that's really rewarding, and then sometimes it's really challenging. Like with that guy who played that character. In my experience, I was getting messages from people who were sharing the most intimate details about their life because they associated me with being Abby. And
right.
Whoa, like, I am just an actress. So how do I channel this into the appropriate network or funnel where I can help these people? That's kind of how I, partnered with Heartbeat too. I was like, I'm not Abby. And, Abby and I are very different people.
Yeah.
And that's okay. She has her own way of working in the movement, and I have my own way. And so I try to distinguish that and say, I am not her. I am my own person. And here's how I believe and I want to make an impact, and really try to distinguish myself from who I played.
The actress that played the one that ran Planned Parenthood that wanted to promote you and all that kind of stuff, dude. You're watching it and you're going, oh, dude, everyone's gonna hate her after this. Like
they did.
But she's working, right? She's got.
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Okay. She's amazing. She actually used to be a dancer for Prince back in the day. Isn't that so funny?
What?
I know. She's really cool. She's amazing. But yeah, people were like, oh my gosh, she's awful. And I'm like, she actually runs a ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
But again, it's fun to play bad people.
Yeah, she did a great job. I had
Yeah.
fun working with her. I think she's great.
She did. Now you just celebrated 13 years, right?
Oh, yes, I did. I've been married.
Congratulations. I want to say congratulations. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think it's July 9th will have been 20 years we've been dating.
Wow.
I know.
I guess it's May 25th. Oh my God, my wife's going to kill me. No, that's right. May 25th. We'll be 5 years together and 1 year prior to that. So 6 years. So yeah, that's cool. You know, we're great. You know, we met later on in life.
Is she in the industry?
She was, but she got out. She worked for Sony Pictures out in Los Angeles for like 14 years.
Wow.
In international marketing. So her and her team had like $300 million for 85 countries to do marketing campaigns for all the films. And she was one of many teams. But she got out of the business, came here because her parents retired in our neck of the woods. And she went to Cucaloris. And she was like, oh, I'll go to Cucaloris. And then someone saw her and they started talking to her and they said, you should try to get a job on one of the shows here in town. And she went in for an interview and then she ended up being a producer's assistant right off the bat on Good Behavior for TNT, and then rolled over to be a producer's assistant on Swamp Thing. But when we decided to have the baby, you can't pull 15-hour workdays, 12-hour workdays. You just can't. So somebody's got to get out. But we were lucky at all time to where my daughter was 4 months old when the pandemic hit. So, everything kind of timed out.
Oh yeah.
Pretty perfect like that.
Yeah.
But Abby was an IVF baby. We had to do IVF. So.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean. That's
and it worked
hard.
out great.
That's
No, that was really hard. And we got it on the first try. And so
wow.
Statistically, it's like 1 in a million. And so I always say she's 1 in a million,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, we're both a little older. I guess I was 44. My wife was 42. So we were like, now I'm 48. Now I got a 3-year-old running around and I'm like, and
You're
I'm just going
older.
Yeah,
but when I sound like an elder.
but I'm pushing 50, and when a toddler goes, chase me, Dada,
you're like,
oh God, chase you? Are you kidding me? You have unlimited energy.
At 25, I was struggling with that. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, all right. So, do you have other than this one project? Because obviously you multitask. And you've got the different foundations of people that you work with. What other projects? I know you've had a couple of movies that you just finished, or you just wrapped something, right?
Yeah, I was shooting a movie out in Louisiana. It was another PureFlix movie, but it is about this woman who's really struggling with her faith because of different things that happen. I don't want to give any spoilers because we're going to be doing a lot of press for it soon. Okay. But I mean, it is a struggle of faith. This woman, and she has to overcome a lot of obstacles, and she is faced with a lot of things that make us ask, why God? Like, if you are real and you are here, why? And her marriage is on the rocks. There's all kinds of things. And I was really drawn to the project because I feel like over the last couple of years, people who have faith have really been faced with the challenge of saying, but why? How could this happen if God is so good? So I was drawn to the project for that very reason, among many others. But we wrapped that up in Louisiana after 3 weeks of shooting. John Schneider played my dad. He was wonderful to work with.
I saw the pictures online. Yeah.
His wife actually passed away.
She passed away. Yeah.
It was such a crazy shoot.
That was in the middle of filming?
In the middle of filming. And this man, he came back and he finished filming. I mean, I couldn't believe that he honored his, contract or obligation, if you want to even call it that, and came back and finished out the movie. It meant a lot to him for a lot of reasons, which I know he'll be talking about later. So I want him to have his chance to tell his story. But I think people are going to be really touched when he shares his story and everything with his wife. But yeah, so I'm still acting. I love acting. That's my first passion. I also write now. So I have 2 scripts that are being shopped right now. One is a Christmas movie that's set at the beach. So I would love to shoot it in Wilmington. I'm like, come on, let's do
Absolutely.
this. It's a beach
Yeah.
movie, so it's fun. And then another one that I wrote is a faith-based rom-com, but it's kind of like 2000s era rom-com, like Matthew
Okay.
McConaughey, Kate Hudson, with someone who is questioning their faith. So it's very light faith-based, but there's that element of like, okay, God, like, where are you in all of this? And really focusing on pharma. I mean, pharma has been my baby for 3 years. It's been the biggest struggle of my life. The biggest struggle.
And I think people don't understand, like my project, I've been working to get it off the ground for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of false starts where it looks like it was going to go and then it doesn't
Mhm.
go. It looks like it's going to go and then it doesn't go. And people don't realize like how hard it is to get
Mhm.
a movie or a television show or anything made. And
Mhm.
I love hearing stories, you know, especially from someone like you, who's been in the business, who's been in a bunch of films. And then when you're trying to do it, you know, push a rock up a hill, a boulder up a hill, people don't get it. You know, they turn on the TV and then they see it there and they don't know how it got there, but it's there. And they to them, it's like it was always there.
Yeah.
But
My
it
favorite
is
is
a
when people are
struggle.
like, well, why doesn't the studio just give you the money to make it? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of moving parts. And
Yeah.
unless you're Chris Pratt, maybe, you know, like you can't just go to the studio and be like, hey, so I have this idea. It just doesn't work like that. Even if it's a great idea, an amazing story like this one about Francis Kelsey, it's not easy to just go to a studio and say, hey, look at how awesome this is, because they want name talent. They want to know that it's going to sell globally. Like there's just so many things that are a part of the process. And as an indie filmmaker, it is a grind.
Yeah, and when you look at movies or series like Dope Stick and things like this, you know, what people don't understand is there's like 16 banks that finance a lot of this stuff for
Right.
Hollywood. Those banks also store a lot of money for farm.
I know, I was going to say that. So it's been
So-
so crazy because even private investors, okay, I've gone and talked to private investors because for indie filmmakers, that's what you do. Sometimes you go and you meet with people, individuals who want to help fund projects. I had a conversation with this one woman and man, we got all the way through the pitch and she was so sweet. And she goes, you know, well, I might have a conflict with this because my brother-in-law works for a very big pharmaceutical company I can't name because I don't want her to feel called out.
Sure.
But a very big one who had a part in in different vaccines. And she was like, so this might be a conflict of interest. And she was like, you know, and I brought up the I just have to say it, the Johnson & Johnson baby powder thing, right?
Oh, with the
Yeah,
cancer.
there was just a huge payout.
That's
and
crazy.
that
Yeah.
like just happened. But I asked about that and I was like, well, you know, like there have been, you know, consistencies throughout the last several years of where there has been reckless behavior, I think, so to speak, where there's not been accountability. And she was like, well, you know, they just kind of build it into their budget.
They do.
I'm
That's
like,
what's so scary is they
they're like, they
know
build
it's
in money.
coming.
Yeah, for lawsuits, they know. They're like, well, we'll just throw this into our budget. And it's kind of like, what? Like, this is so bad.
Yeah, it's you know, and it's this film that you're going to do, Pharma, it is going to get this story's too great. It's too great.
It was a great
So
story.
I'm happy that you're pushing hard on this one. And
Well, I want to add this because a lot of people don't know. We are doing it with Angel Studios. And a lot of people associate Angel Studios with only doing faith-based stuff because they did The Chosen, which a lot of people recognize from Angel Studios. But they don't just do faith-based stuff. This is one of the spearhead projects that is not faith-based. It's very much like Aaron Brockovich.
right.
And so they're doing movies that are inspiring, more so to speak. And we have
But you say, just so the people to know, they're not just, you say it as almost like it's a crutch that they do that. And what I would say is, just like you've got BET that just focuses on Black entertainment, and you've got faith-based films that focus on this, and then you've got horror genre, and you've got, it's just a different segment of an audience that's being served.
Right.
And I think that like there's a negative connotation, but you know, but it's not. And I think like people need to rewire that whole, oh, it's a faith-based film, or oh, it has something to, it's like, no, you're serving an audience.
Yeah.
That
The
is
Chosen
craving that.
is high quality stuff too. Like The Chosen is now on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix licensed The Chosen from Angel Studios and the creators of The Chosen. So it's high quality content. And then their last movie that was their debut theatrical premiere was premiered number 3 in the box office. So they know
that was the Jesus Revolution, right?
no, so
No.
this one was
What was
called
that
His
one?
Only it was called His Only Son, and that one just came out after Jesus Revolution. Jesus
Oh,
Revolution was with
I didn't see that one out in the theaters. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was a recent release, but it was number 3
Okay.
in the box office when it premiered a couple weeks ago.
That's great.
So they know what they're doing. And what's interesting and unconventional about their model is they give the general public the opportunity to be an investor. Whereas, traditionally it's only accredited high net worth individuals who can invest in movies.
Sure.
But with ours, you can invest for $10 and it's not a donation. Like these people own a piece of our movie and they have profit participation. So that actually ends on Friday. So if anybody is watching, just know like that's the last chance on Friday for the public to own a piece of it. And if they want to, they have to go to angel.com/pharma. And that's it. Friday is your last chance to own a piece of it.
I think I got the link in the comment section, I believe, the description. And so when people raise that kind of money, if you don't hit the budget, that's when you can offset it with financing from
Right.
bank financing.
We've had a lot of questions from people because it's really difficult to fund a crowdfund. It's just really hard. It just is, because the average individual may only be able to give $10, and that's fine and amazing. Right. So when they're looking at our raise, they're like, well, how are you going to make this movie with just this bit of money? And it's like, well, there's private investment. There are hedge fund groups. We have people who are willing to match this and then match private investment. There's tax incentives, rebates, and there's gap financing. So there's all these things that will help us get over these hurdles. So I
always say that people don't understand how you finance projects, and not one project is financed the same way. It's literally a million ways to skin a cat. I say that all the time to people because they're always like, well, tell me how I'm going to invest and how I'm going to make my money back. I'm like, well, there's like 50 different ways to do this, and
well, also I tell people, like, can you tell me what your house is going to be worth in 10 years? Because you probably can't. Like, there are comps in the same in film industry. Like there are comps for these movies. Like we compare ours to Aaron Brockovich or The Imitation Game or Hidden Figures. Like we can look at those movies and say, here's what the return was, but we can't guarantee you that because we don't know what our house is worth in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And that's just the way that it works. No, if someone knows of an investment that has a guaranteed return, like I want to know so that I can invest $1 million.
Yeah, it's very hard to do that. But if you got a good sales agent, which I'm sure all that stuff's going to work out. But a sales agent will go, well, I know I can sell this country, this country, this country for this if I put this actor in it.
Right.
And so like there's a formula to everything, and people just don't get it. And that's why I always hear people talk about. When you see a movie poster now these days, everybody's checking boxes. They're making sure. I was like, well, they're making sure they have someone that's Asian in it, so they've got the Asian market. They're making sure they have somebody who's Hispanic, so they've got the South American market. Like, so people don't get like why the movie posters kind of look the way they do, or like, and sometimes that can make things feel a little generic that it seems like they're checking boxes, but it's really because a movie isn't just for the United States. These are global markets.
And this movie is for sure. Like it was all over the world that it impacted people. I get that.
It's like you said with the Germany and all that kind of stuff. The German, and that's weird because the new Indiana Jones film has something. When World War II ended, a lot of the Nazi engineers came over and helped build the rockets for the space race. And that's what there
was part of them, like just not going to prison or being sentenced to death,
Oh, I can make drugs. Oh, I can can make. What can I do for you?
They're indebted to society. They needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that's a whole
other conversation. We're getting close to ending, but I just wanted to say, thanks for doing this. This was really good. Oh, and you just before I let you go, you just went to Disney World, didn't you?
I did.
You did.
I love Disney. Disney is honestly the reason I became an actress. It was where my imagination got to run wild as a child. It was my safe place where I had a lot of challenges as a kid, and it was my safe place. It was where I could go and feel like I was heard and seen. I mean, I know it's imagination, but it hit something inside of me that made me feel safe. And
Yeah.
Mary Poppins, of all things, was the one that just stuck with me. And I was like, I want to tell stories.
I have not been to Disney yet. I'm 48. I haven't been to Disney yet, but my daughter's 3. What's the good age to take the little one to Disney? Is it 5? Is it 6?
We took my son when he was 5, I think, for the first time.
Okay.
And that was a really great age because they watch the movies and they see the characters, and it's just this magical experience. I mean, he turned 13 on our last trip, and he was like, "Where's the roller coaster, Mom?"
No,
And
I know he's getting tall.
oh my gosh, he's like almost a foot taller than me. It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a different experience when they're little because I think there's magic. They just see these things, and it's a very magical experience. And Disney does a great job of making everyone there feel special and create this experience.
That's good. It's still, I mean, I know there's been some controversies lately with things, but Disney is still in its heart, its essence. It's just like the greatest place on earth. My wife has been quite a few times, even when she lived in LA. I think she had a friend that worked at Disney, and they'd get a day pass or something, and they'd just go to Disney.
I love it.
Yeah. And so we're definitely going to go, maybe this fall, maybe next fall, but we'll see. 'Cause she'll be around 4. She'll be 4 in November, but we live with Disney Plus. I mean, oh my God, I don't know what we'd do if we didn't have Disney Plus. It's just, she sings all the songs. She knows all the movies. It's just, yeah. So it was good that you went to Disney. I want to talk about it just because I was, again, like, I can't wait to go because I want to go see the Star Wars stuff.
Go in March though. Like March is really a good time because it's not busy.
March, really? I thought everyone kept saying October. Go in October.
I mean, maybe, but like the beach schools, for lack of better words, we have spring break like a week earlier than most of the country.
Okay.
And so for us, when we went on our spring break with our son, it was not busy at all. I mean, the lines were really short, and it was warm though. I mean, we were sitting out at the pool in March. So for us, we liked it then. Yeah, maybe
it is Florida. So it's always kind of warm down there.
And it wasn't raining. Like, don't go during a rainy season.
Okay.
That's awful. Disney during the rain is not fun.
No, that wouldn't be at all. But I don't want to go when it's too hot either. So it's like, it's either October or now March. Now I've got my windows. It was so nice to have you on.
Oh, I loved it.
I wish you so much success. You have done so much, and it just keep plowing away. I'm sure Bill is going to be busting his, I'm saying this because he'll watch this. I'm sure he's busting his butt, and those phones are ringing. No.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see this movie come to life. Pharma. Again, all the links are in the comment section to all the different things that you're associated with. And again, I just, break legs, make this thing happen, and, keep that positive, direction that you're going in. I'll do the horror movies. I'll do the action films.
Likewise, I mean, I wish you all the success. Everybody has their path and their place in the industry. It's important. So likewise, I want you to be just as successful, if not more.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and I really appreciate it. And I know your calendar's just completely locked up. And again, for anybody who's just coming into this thing, there was a live stream yesterday, which directly involved some of the survivors that were in the United States from, I'm not going to mess up that word. Thalidomide. And Don King was in that trailer.
Oh yeah, Don is a friend of mine, and he's in Wilmington. So
I love Don.
He's a great guy.
Sometimes we were out not too long ago having a beer at the pub. He's a great guy, great character actor too. But yeah, so we'll have all that stuff there, and I wish you and your family the best. And thanks for being on the show.
Thanks. Likewise.
It takes a second to end the broadcast. It's like a thing with like 3 seconds.